Firstly, let us remember that the path of self-realization is the path for our consciousness to become united with God. Do not forget that you are here seated on this chair and in this room before your computer. We need to exercise our consciousness. It is not good to place the consciousness outside of our breathing space because we need to be awake. We need to be here and now. Remember your true self with your consciousness that vibrates in the pineal gland in the middle of your brain, the seat of the atom of the Holy Spirit, the seat of your soul. So we need to be here and now, inside of our physical body, paying attention to every detail of this lecture to understand and comprehend with the consciousness. Do not let your mind drive you outside of your breathing space. Remember that you are here and now, and use your imagination in order to comprehend. Do the will of your God. He is the only law. We have to learn how to do the will of God. To do the will of God, we have to be here and now. It is impossible to do the will of God if we are identified with the mind. If we do not remember that we are within the body, if we do not feel ourselves in the middle of the brain in the pineal gland, then we are sleeping, even if we have our physical eyes open. To be awake is to remember always that we are within the body. Then we can do the will of God. That will is, of course, to be one with Him, to control the inferior laws, in order to enter into the superior laws. Let us imagine, while we remember that we are here in our breathing space, the first law, which is the absolute, where we find the pure light, that which we call AUR, the light. The limitless light is the Ein Sof Hour. Within that light, within that which is the solar absolute, we find freedom because the will of God is performed. That which is God is not a person, but the light which shines in that dimension. Image from that light emerges three lights, which are what we call the Holy Triamazikamno, or Triamazikamno, the law of three, positive, negative, neutral, the active energy, the passive energy, and the energy that conciliates the active and passive. The three primary forces of the universe always penetrate the depth of every cosmic unit. We find that in the depth of every cosmic unit, there are always these three primary forces.
So, to begin, we find these three primary forces in what we call the megalocosmos. The megalocosmos is the vast world, where we find all the planets, suns, stars, comets, etc. So we find the megalocosmos related to all the infinite cosmic unities that exist in space. The three primary forces descend from the great megalocosmos and create what we call the macrocosmos, the great cosmos. The macrocosmos is the galaxy itself. So the three primary forces, positive, negative, and neutral, penetrate and sustain the galaxy itself. But since it is the second order of worlds, this cosmos is affected by the three primary forces of the megalocosmos. So we find that the macrocosmos is controlled by 6 laws. Within the galaxy, we find what we call the solar systems, the deuterocosmos. Solar systems exist within any galaxy. Solar systems are always in activity thanks to the 3 laws, positive, negative, and neutral. The law of the Triamazikamno is always related to any cosmos. The solar system is related to its own 3 laws, but is affected by the 6 laws of the galaxy and the 3 laws of the megalocosmos. So we find that the solar system is controlled by 12 laws. Innumerable planets rotate around the solar systems. Every planet rotates and dances around the center of any particular solar system, and it is sustained and penetrated by 3 laws, positive, negative, and neutral, within the center of each planet. Since the planets are rotating around the center of the solar system, obviously they are affected by the 12 laws of that solar system, the 6 laws of the galaxy, plus 3 laws of the megalocosmos. So they are related to 24 laws. Use your comprehension and understanding to see that every planet is sustained by 24 laws. Within any planet, we find the microcosmos, which are called the human beings. Human beings are always sustained and penetrated by the 3 laws, positive, negative, and neutral, which are located in the cerebrospinal nervous system, the grand sympathetic nervous system, and the parasympathetic nervous system, which is also called vagus. Since the human being is sustained, penetrated by the 3 laws, plus 24 laws of the planet, plus 12 laws of the solar system, plus 6 laws of the galaxy, and 3 laws of the megalocosmos, we find the human being is related to 48 laws. So, behold our consciousness. We are in this world, physical body, of 48 laws. These 48 laws are related to the 48 chromosomes of the human cells. We understand that, physically speaking, scientists say we have 46 chromosomes in the cells. But the vital body, which is the superior part of the physical body, the etheric part, related to energy, chi, prana, the aura, is related to 2 vital chromosomes. Of course, materialistic science does not recognize they exist due to their ignorance of the etheric or vital aspects of all things. That is why we say there are 48 chromosomes related to the 48 laws that govern the human physical body. So we are very far from the light of the Absolute, very far from that will. That is why we are related to many laws and many automatisms. So here and now we have to observe all the mechanical laws that we are subjected to. See your 3 brains from inside: your intellectual, your emotional, and your motor instinctive sexual brain. In each brain we have vital values. These vital values receive the name of bobbin candle nosts, which are the vital values that we have to live on the surface of this planet. We have bobbin candle nosts in the cerebrospinal nervous system, in the grand sympathetic nervous system, and in the parasympathetic nervous system. These 3 brains, intellectual, emotional, and motor instinctive sexual brain, are related to the 5 cylinders or centers through which the consciousness always acts. We have the intellectual center in the head. We have the emotional center between the heart and the navel. We have the motor center where the spinal column ends at our neck. We have our instinctive center at the very bottom of our spinal column, at our coccyx. And we have our sexual center in our genitals. Each center has its particular energy to be in activity. Each center is related to the 3 brains. Each center has its intellectual part, its emotional part, and its motion-related part. When we are using the intellectual center, it is obvious that the movements we make with the physical body are very slow because the intellectual center is the slowest of all the centers. For example, when we are learning how to dance. When we learn how to dance using the emotional center, the movements are faster. Then you are moving to the rhythm of that music with the motor instinct sexual centers, which has nothing to do with the intellect. If you start analyzing the movement of that dance, analyzing is intellectual, then you will dance very slowly or you will step on the feet of your partner. This is why many people are clumsy or bad dancers, or they avoid it. They do not use the right centers. Let us investigate the motor center. When you are typing, you are using the intellectual part of your motor center, which is faster than the intellect itself. If you start using the intellect of your intellectual center, then you will type very slowly. Let us see now the instinctive center. It is faster than the motor center. When you are using your intuitive center, the intellectual part of that center is very fast because the instinctive center is 90,000 times faster than the intellect. The sexual center also has its intellect, emotions, and motions. It is 120,000 times faster than the intellectual center. That is why it is not possible to control the sexual center or the instinctive center, given the state that we are in at this moment. When we start this path of the self-realization of the being, we have to realize that we are only capable of controlling the intellectual center and the emotional center because they are slower in comparison to the motor center, instinctive center, and sexual center. Each center has its vital values and its energies. Yet, what do we know of these energies? Are we aware of how we use them? Are we the owners of the physical body, this microcosmos that Mother Nature gave us as a gift? It is a gift because, in this world, no one bought the physical body. It is a gift that we receive from Mother Nature, a gift controlled by 48 laws. But do we own this gift? Not. Our time here is unknown, and we have to recognize that the vast majority of its functions we have no comprehension of. Yet it continues to function, despite our abuse of it. We utilize its energies to feed our desires, to express our anger and fear, and we ignore the secret movements that happen from moment to moment within our physical bodies. Whether we realize it or not, at some moment it will be taken from us. We have to take advantage of this opportunity to control these 5 centers with our 3 brains, to enter into the higher dimensions by utilizing the energy of the Triamazikamno, the law of 3. These 3 primary forces are placed in the head, heart, and in sex. If we do not save these energies, we cannot create within each one of us those vehicles that we need to be free of the 48 laws. Below the microcosmos, within our subconsciousness, there is another world, another cosmos. It is related to 96 laws, because that cosmos is related to 3 laws, plus 48, plus 24, etc., will sum up to 96 laws. That world is more mechanical. The materialism of that world is below the physical world. It is hell. It is the ego. Our ego belongs to 96 laws and makes our consciousness miserable, a slave of sin, a slave of rottenness, of idiocy, a slave of the laws of hell. If we want to be free of hell, or if we do not want to descend into that cosmos of 96 laws to make our lives more miserable than in this very moment, we have to liberate ourselves from the ego and the 48 laws and enter into the realm controlled by 24 laws. With fewer laws, there is less density and thus more freedom, more happiness. To enter into the realm of 24 laws, we have to save the energies of the 5 centers. We have to save the energy of the 3 brains. It is impossible to create a vehicle, internally speaking, for the soul or the consciousness, which is the same, to experience the higher dimensions if we are wasting the energy of the 3 brains through the 5 centers. Unfortunately, we are always destroying the energy of the 5 centers. To stop the abuse of that energy in our organism, we have to be here and now. We have to be awake. We have to consciously handle our 5 centers and our 3 brains from moment to moment, from second to second. This is the path of revolution of consciousness, because we will know ourselves by studying the 5 centers and the 3 brains, which most people use mechanically. They ignore that they are utilizing these centers and brains automatically. When we unconsciously use any of the 5 centers, we create within ourselves the psychological aggregates. What is a psychological aggregate? First, we have to understand the word. Psyche is soul. Logos is related to the 3 primary forces, the word, the verb, and the vibration, from the esoteric point of view. Psychology describes the relationship between the soul and the logos, the 3 primary forces. The soul, through the 3 brains and 5 centers, receives the energy of the logos and transforms it. A psychological aggregate is the result of a bad transformation of that energy. In other words, the wrong transformation of the energies within these 5 centers is going to create aggregates, egos, that trap our consciousness, which is going to harm the harmonious balance of our physical organism, psyche, soul, consciousness, and everything inside. So it is necessary to be here and now to transform those energies properly. Within the sexual center, we have the energies of the Triamazikamno, 3 forces, bipolarized in the ovaries and testicles. One ovary, or one testicle, has positive energy. The other one has negative energy. So the creative energy is polarized in the sexual gonads, the testicles, and ovaries. That energy is created in us through what we eat and breathe, and in the way that we are behaving, whether we are awakened or asleep. If we are here and now, controlling our physical body through our consciousness, the energy that we are going to receive will be very powerful. If we are asleep and we are mechanically following only the mind, then we are going to create a false force in the sexual glands. Either way, the sexual energy is a very potent, high-powered fuel. Intellectual center. Let us talk about the intellectual center. If, for example, we are at work and we have to use this center a lot, we use it to the point that we are mentally tired. If we overwork the intellectual center and it uses up all the energy naturally available to it, the energy that is designed for it, then we force that center to steal energy from the most powerful center that we have, which is the sexual center. When we abuse the intellect, it is obvious that the high-octane sexual energy is going to pass into the intellectual center, and it is going to destroy the intellect. This is because sexual energy is very powerful, and when this energy is used in centers that are not related to it, then it is damaging the different centers. The result is mental imbalance, the different manias. These manias in the intellect are creating mental illnesses. It is not necessary to be in a mental hospital to be a mentally ill person. Even if we feel that this will hurt, it is very difficult to find a healthy person, mentally speaking, in this physical world. Most of us are sick mentally because we abuse the intellect. These manias that everyone has in the intellect are those psychological defects, vices, traumas that psychologists in these times are studying. The people who suffer from mental sicknesses infect the minds of others who are also abusing the intellect. When we abuse the intellect, we abuse the sexual energy as well. Behold, in these times, all the people who we find in society that are worshiping crime. People make an art of crime. We see this in movies, books, television, magazines. Those who are creating degenerated movies or books are receiving different types of awards because crime is an art. And we are worshiping them because we are also sick. If we were healthy, we would not worship this type of work. A mentally imbalanced person worships other mentally imbalanced people. Observe yourself, because when someone abuses the intellect, there is always a lot of self-love, pride, and vanity, and it is always causing problems on this planet. So-called politicians are utilizing their minds to find more ways to kill more people and to plant their ideas of revolution of blood and liquor because they are sick. They are abusing the sexual energy in their intellect. Unfortunately, our planet is controlled by sick people in all countries. Those who are trying to teach how to be healthy in the mind are crucified or stoned because people love degeneration. See the amount of pornography created by sick people. Everyone worships that because we are mentally sick as well. The sexual energy has to be utilized through the sexual glands, through the sexual organs, not the mind, with our morbid imagination. It is ignorant to admit or tolerate pornography. That is not the way to spend sexual energy. When we are looking at lustful images, we are abusing the intellect. It is obvious that when we are doing that, we are creating psychological aggregates. Those psychological aggregates are poisoning the minds of everyone in these times. Emotional center. Let us talk about the emotional center. The emotional center also has its energy. When we abuse or destroy the emotional center with any type of overstimulating vibration or activity, the emotional center steals energy from the sexual center, which is the most powerful center that we have. There are many sicknesses of the emotional center, such as schizophrenia. Jealousy is a sickness of the emotional center, as is hatred, anger, fear. The so-called human defects have nothing human in them. But of course, we are accustomed to those defects because we like to abuse our emotional center. Actors and actresses abuse the emotional center. We have to have balance in the emotional center. When we enjoy rock and roll and all of that modern music, we are destroying the emotional center. The negative emotions stimulated by this type of music, which is very clearly a powerful vibration, destroy the emotional center. It is obvious that we are destroying the energy of our emotional center. This is unfortunately the type of life that we like on this planet Earth. People like to destroy their lives. That is why they are full of sicknesses, and they do not like to hear that. That is not good for them. It is very difficult to find someone with a very equilibrated emotional center. When you feel your emotional center is tired, you have to stop using that emotional center immediately and put other centers into activity, like walking or reading a nice book, not a book of crime that will poison your mind further. We already have a lot of garbage in our minds. We have to choose nice books that will increase our consciousness, not destroy it. Motor center. Let us now investigate the motor center. The motor center is good for exercising. But in these times, people are very identified with the motor center, and they are inventing many different apparatuses to exercise themselves and over-exercise themselves like bodybuilders. We admit that we need to exercise to be healthy, but to grow our muscles to show in a tournament that we have the most beautiful body in the world is vanity. It is placing the sexual energy in the wrong place. Those people who are fascinated with exercising, focusing intensely upon it, are abusing the motor center and stealing energy from the sexual center to feed their vanity, pride, conceitedness, etc. Of course, nowadays we are programmed daily to feed our vanity, to worry continually about our appearance, about our body, and so we abuse the motor center with over-exercise. Any type of abuse of the motor center is sexual abuse. We find the players of football and baseball, people who like to break records to get a medal. They over-exercise. We also find the contrary, those people who are lazy. We have to be balanced. We have to know how to utilize the motor center properly, in order not to abuse it. If we abuse it, then we have different sicknesses, such as paralysis, diseases of the joints, muscles, etc., because the motor center is destroyed due to its abuse. Remember, we have to use the centers, not to abuse them. The so-called sports in these times are sports to destroy the motor center. We are identified with it, and we are creating and fertilizing different psychological aggregates in each one of us. Instinctive center. What about the instinctive center? We have many instincts that we have to control. Unfortunately, we are unaware of these instincts. Most of the time, we are slaves of the instincts because most of them are animal instincts. Remember that this center is related to the senses of the physical body: eyes, nose, mouth, ears, hands. We have many functions within the organism that are instinctive functions that we are unaware of, like digestion, the work of the heart, lungs, etc. These instinctive functions, when we abuse them, also create illness. For example, obsessions with dieting, overeating, eating bad food, or fake food, which is so popular these days. Obsession with conquering instinctive fear through extreme sports or dangerous activities, etc. We have to be here and now so we do not abuse the instinctive center. There are so many different diets at this time, and everyone is identified with their diet because everyone wants to have a healthy body. It is good, but not if we identify with it and have anorexia, because we are identified with our vanity. So, investigate your instincts, because when we abuse this center, then we have sexual abuse as well. The instinct is very developed in the animal and includes such behaviors as conservation of our life. But we have to not identify. Some people overreact in a moment of danger, and there may not be so much danger and they kill because they are not controlling their instinct. When you want to put a picture on the wall and you are hammering and by accident you hit your finger, control your instinct and do not utter filthy words. That is an overreaction of your instinctive center, which is animal. To control the instinctive center is the most difficult thing, because most of the instincts are animal instincts. We have to transform that into intuition. When we control perfectly the center of the instinct, we create intuition. Intuition is the power that gives us access to experience the truth of other dimensions when we overcome the 48 laws of this physical plane. If we do not control the 48 laws here, then we multiply our defects, vices, and errors, and we will be submitted to more laws. To transcend that, we have to be here and now, to remember ourselves, to be inside of the body. Otherwise, it is impossible. Sexual center. What about the sexual center? What are the functions of the sexual center? If you abuse the sexual center, then you are abusing the other centers as well. Because just as the abuse of the other centers results in energy being stolen from the sexual center, the reverse is also true. So when the sexual center becomes active in the wrong way, it is stealing energy from the other centers. So then the sexual center is acting with energy that does not belong to it. The result is different sicknesses of the sexual center. Let us investigate prostitution. What is prostitution? It is fear in the emotional center, because we learn through the different schools, universities, TV, etc., that if we are poor, we are failures. Then, to be successful, people want money because they fear poverty. Prostitution is seen as a good way to get money. That is one of the causes, but there are many other causes. It could be from other centers. It could be brainwashing from different sources to fall into prostitution. With it, they are abusing the sexual center and destroying themselves. And when they destroy themselves, they destroy others. Because the men that go with prostitutes are abusing the sexual center and other centers. Mutually, they destroy their lives. And the psyche creates other manias that we know very well and do not need to name. Remember that this path is the path of the revolution of the consciousness. It is necessary to have balance in the 3 brains and the 5 centers. So we have to place our consciousness in each center and clean each center of any mania, of any psychological stimulant that we have within. In these times, due to ignorance, and that everyone is doing the same thing, we learn to abuse the sexual center from childhood. Masturbation is an abuse of the sexual center, despite all the statements of the doctors and psychologists. We have to understand that they are also slaves of the 5 centers. If they are abusing the 5 centers, their statements will be related to that abuse. Everyone in this society is building their lives upon the abuse of their psyche. The foundation of the society is rotten. Everywhere you see everyone worshiping crime, degeneration, and everything rotten. And they are seeing with despise all that is superior. What is worse is that sometimes people who live destroying the 5 centers feel superior to others who are not doing that. So the sickness is already rooted in the depth of the consciousness. We need to realize and understand what freedom means. Free of what? Free of the laws. Everyone talks about liberation. Liberation from what? From the ego, from suffering, from the many laws. Everyone talks about enlightenment. But how are we going to be filled with light when right now we are filled with so much that is dark and disgusting? Be eliminating our psychological aggregates. You hear in many religions, especially Christianity, that they say we have to be saved. Saved from what? When we understand that we have to be saved from the 48 laws, and worse, all of that garbage that we created within, which is ruled by even more laws. We need to be saved, and for that, we have to be here and now. Believing in this or that has no effect if we do not work in ourselves, if we do not clean ourselves, if we are not here and now, if we are not controlling the 5 centers and the 3 brains. We are not going to be free and liberated even if we believe in all the religions of the earth, etc. To be saved requires psychological work that we have to do here and now. We have to save energy to enter into the kingdom of heaven. What is the kingdom of heaven? It is the superior dimensions. This physical world is the 3rd dimension. Above the 3rd dimension, we have the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. But you do not know anything about the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th dimensions because you are not doing the will of your God. I told you, do the will of your God. This is the only law. Yet, are you doing the will of your being, or are you doing the will of somebody's ego? Are you the owner of your body? As a soul, are you the owner of your life? Meaning, can you control your life? Or is your life controlling you? Are you following the statements of sick people? Or are you living in sickness and ignoring it? Do you like to be sick? If so, you do not need to exercise and to awaken consciousness. If you want to be healthy psychologically speaking, you need to be here and now. You need to feel yourself within the body. You need to stop abusing the five centers. Do not worry about the centers of your neighbor because your neighbor will take care of them. Worry about your own. Nobody can do that for you, only you, if you psychologically work. If you don't work, you will sink in the mud. But you are going to do it. No one is going to push you. You have to realize that you have to awaken first, to realize what kind of manias you have within. Then you have to do your God's will. To do your God's will, you have to be here and now. It is not possible to be free of those manias if you forget yourself. If you forget yourself, you will be controlled by the subjective elements in your mind, and then you will repeat the same mistakes and create more aggregates for your psyche. Those aggregates, defects, vices, and errors are what are known as the 7 capital sins. We have to discover and realize what we have within. Living in that way, by remembering ourselves here and now, we give ourselves a conscious shock. Once we begin to establish self-remembering in our daily lives, then we give the second shock to be awake internally, to enter into the world of dream yoga. This yoga is the union of the consciousness with the spirit by controlling our dreams, which are desires and the sicknesses we have in the 5 centers. When we are in balance psychologically, then we are going to save energy. If we save energy, then we can be awake in the astral plane, molecular plane, or that dimension we call eternity, where everyone goes when they are physically asleep. So we have to save our energy. If we save energy through the science of alchemy, through the science of transmutation, then we create within us a second nature. That second nature is going to be created when we save energy. It is impossible to save energy if we abuse the 5 centers. If we abuse the 5 centers, then we are producing sexual abuse. Remember that there is sexual abuse in the intellect, emotional, instinctive, motor, and sexual centers. Society always interacts around sex. Everything moves around sex, whether it is directly or indirectly. So we have to save our creative energy. Then we will know that to be born again is to create inside of ourselves another nature. Then you will discover the mysteries of life and death. Then that fear of death will disappear, because you will know with your consciousness, you will recognize the mysteries because you will be awake. The creation of that second nature requires that we are dutiful and disciplined, and enter into the dimension of dreams to study ourselves with awakened consciousness. But to achieve that, dream yoga is very strict. Our bedroom should be decorated with 3 primary colors: blue, yellow, and red. These 3 primary colors are related to the 3 primary forces: positive, negative, and neutral, or as Christianity calls it, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. These are forces and not persons. After explaining the 3 brains and the 3 forces concerning the different cosmos, you have to understand that we need these 3 forces in our room to take advantage of that energy which is related to other cosmos. Then we are going to place that energy into our body. Chromotherapy, the power of color. The 3 primary colors are indispensable. We should listen to classical music. Why? Above these inferior 5 centers, we have 2 superior centers: the superior emotional center and the superior intellectual center. These 2 centers are not related to all the sicknesses that we have in our psyche. They are related to what we call spirit, the monad, and what we call God within. So when we listen to classical music, we put into activity the superior emotional center, and then we are capable of entering, at least for a moment, into these dimensions to be in contact with superior beings. So we have to have a preference for classical music, such as Chopin, Mozart, and Wagner. The music of Beethoven is particularly good for the superior emotional center. However, if you want to destroy your emotional center, you have to go to rock concerts every week or to listen to rap music, etc. And you will achieve the destruction of your emotional center in no time. Inferior music will inevitably damage your emotional center. It will bring about the ruin of your psyche, and your life will go very easily down to clippeth. Thus, you will become a slave of more laws. A lot of people like the music of rock and roll and despise the music of the great classical masters. Why? It is because people are in a state of degeneration. Their brain is not working normally. If it was, then they would like classical music, the emotions it stimulates in us, and they would not feel good listening to other types of music. So let us develop that custom to listen to Beethoven in particular, and we will increase our superior emotional centers, and we will see how our experiences out of the body increase, and we will experience beautiful things connected with our spirit, God, the truth, angels, archangels, etc. The superior intellectual center also has to be put into activity by reading good things, not garbage. You have to place in your mind beautiful things. There is a lot of good literature that you can obtain to feed your soul and your consciousness. However, to feed your ego, defects, and vices is very easy. You can go to the bookstore and you will find thousands of books that will destroy your mind. If we have a job or some work where we are always seated, then it is good before going to bed to go for a walk and get some exercise to utilize the motor center. It is not good to neglect the use of this center. That is why a walk or some exercise is good, but not to go to an extreme. If we abuse, it is not good. We have to eat lightly in the evening. Otherwise, we will have indigestion, and we will have nightmares. If you want to have a big meal, then do so at breakfast or lunchtime. It is not good to have a big meal at night. We have to utilize the magnetic forces of the planets. Remember that the Earth rotates and creates two vortexes, the North Pole and the South Pole. The magnetic needle always goes toward the north. The magnetic forces are coming from the north, so we should put the head of our bed towards the north to receive the help of the magnetism of the different cosmoses. This is because the North Pole enters the force of the solar system, the galaxy, etc., and enters into the microcosmos, which is our physical body. So put the head of your bed toward the north to take advantage of this. As you know, the blanket of our bed should be clean and of a natural fiber such as cotton. Our pillow should be perfumed with our favorite natural perfume to sleep nicely. Be careful that our bed does not have noisy springs. Everything should be checked to have a good experience. It is necessary to have a notebook to write the experiences you have during the night. To have good experiences and to know the meanings of the symbols of our dreams, we need to invoke the god Morpheus. When I say God, let us remember that Morpheus is just the name of one of the parts of our being because the being is the multiple perfect unity. When you were a child, you heard about your guardian angel. The guardian angel is a part of your being. Each one of us has our particular guardian angel, and also each one of us has the part of the being called Morpheus. He is the god of dreams, or the part of the being related to the knowledge of the symbols of our dreams. So when we are on our bed, we have to lie down on our back, and we have to pray to that part of ourselves, which is Morpheus, and ask him to grant us the favor of teaching us outside of our bodies the science of dreams, which is the meanings hidden behind any dream to awake the consciousness outside of our body. We have to invoke Morpheus in the name of Christ, by the power of Christ, by the majesty of Christ. We have to do that invocation many times until we feel we are falling asleep. When we feel we are falling asleep, we have to take the position of the lion. Lie down on your right side. Fold your right leg, put your left leg on top of your right leg, and put the right cheek of your face on the palm of your right hand. That is the position of the lion. Fall asleep in this position. The position of the lion is connected with the forces of fire in the center plexus, which are going to be in activity in the night. It does not matter if you change positions after you sleep, but you have to fall asleep like that to let your Morpheus act within your consciousness. Thus, Morpheus, that part of your being, will teach you outside of your body. But you have to remember every detail, and that is why you need a notebook to write the details of your dreams. This is how you are going to know yourself. Remember that your dreams are an expression of your frustrated desires that during the day you feel, or frustrated sicknesses, or whatever else. This is how you are going to know all the psychological values you have within, negative and positive values, and whether they are related to the sexual center, instinctive center, emotional center, motor center, or intellectual center. Remember that if you allow yourself to listen to classical music, then maybe you will have a good experience through your superior emotional center. Your spirit is going to teach you through that center and is going to point out your manias and what you need to do for you to walk towards him. Remember that dream yoga is a union. We want to be united with our spirit through the knowledge of the awakening of the consciousness in our dreams.